All righty. Well, here we are. I told Tammy,
We are.
I'm going to take my glasses off and see if I can hit the record button without them.
I know.
I managed. I don't know how. Ouch. So, hi, welcome back. It's been an eventful, I think, 3 weeks, huh? At least eventful for us. And oh, by the way, today's election day for us as we are recording. Um, we'll talk about that in a minute. So hi, we're two psychic moms. I'm Julie Hawkins. This is Tammy Langowski. And Tammy, where can you be found?
You can find me best for my website, tammysintuitive.com. I'm on social media, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Tammy's Intuitive Services. And I do lots of channel messages on those as well. And YouTube, Tammy's Channel Chats, my other YouTube, along with what I have here with Julie. So I'm available for private sessions, and best to go through my website, the contact form, if you're interested in that. Thanks so much. How about you, Julie?
It's funny that you say that because I think I might be transitioning to something like that next year myself. We'll see. Anyway, lots of things I'm thinking about for next year. Hi. So it's funny. I just had a thought, and as those thoughts go, I don't know where it went. Anyway, so
I understand that.
I will just say, oh, where can I be found? You were talking about TikTok, and I was like, I just have heard so many. Hi, you want to come up? I've heard so many weird things about TikTok and the information that they gather, and I'm just like, I hate social media sometimes, but I love YouTube, so
yeah,
just gonna go with that.
It's a good one. It's a good one.
That was Felix saying hello. So we have lots of questions. I don't know that we'll be able to get to them all today, and that's okay. It leaves juicy stuff for later. We'll get into that a little bit more. You want to come up? Come on.
And as always, thank you for all of those wonderful questions you all are sending in. Oh, we love that. This is why we're here.
Exactly.
So keep sending them. It's really great. Sometimes it makes you think, after you hear each session that we do here together, then maybe there's another idea or another question, that kind of spins off of what we were talking about. So keep that in mind.
And that does, because Rudy asked something, and that kind of spun off as something we said, but we'll get to that in a minute. So this is Felix, who, as usual, likes to be right in front of the camera. And so we'll see how that goes. I am available for readings, as Tammy is, and said she is too. And we love your questions, so please keep them coming. Today is election day. I absentee vote. So all I can say is vote. Vote, vote, vote. I was telling Tammy this story before we started, so I think I'm going to share it and see what happens. Oh, no.
Sure.
So Tammy and I have talked from time to time about how we get what we call drop-in information. It's like it's like you're just sitting there minding your own business, and somebody says something to you, and they're not in the room, right? They're in discarnate beings, and I'm just like, oh, okay. Well, okay. Thanks so much for that. And so, being that it is election day today, and I hesitate to do this because I feel like I'm putting myself out there and sharing, but I kind of feel like, would they've given it to me if they didn't want me to share it with somebody? And at least we'll find out. So they didn't give me information on all the races. That would be like, okay, then just go buy a lottery ticket, right? Which I actually did last week. Needless to say, I didn't win. And so they did tell me in one of the races, it's in Arizona, where I think it's the race for the governor between Katie Hobbs and Carrie Lake. And Carrie Lake is very much like the female Trump. And I don't know what I was doing. Again, always doing something that is like nothing, right? Like walking from one room to the next. And they said, oh yeah, Carrie Lake's going to lose, and she's going to lose big. And I went,
gotcha.
Okay. So I'm a
Let's
little
see what
nervous to put
happens.
it out there, but there we have it. We're going to see what happens.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah.
All right. So, so Glenda had sent us some great questions, and we got about halfway through that. I'm sorry, Tammy, was there anything that you wanted to add to, like,
Oh, no,
or anything?
thank you. Yeah, sometime we can talk about what drop-ins kind of are and explain that a little bit, but yeah, no, I'm good. We'll just go right into Glenda's lovely questions. Thank you again, Glenda.
So, I know these are, I just love it when people ask these questions because it's like, oh, what a great
Yeah,
question, right?
exactly. Yeah, yeah.
So, Glenda says, um, I'm reading Wayne Dyer's book, Memories of Heaven, and it's children's recollections of the time before they came to Earth and other fascinating accounts from parents. I hope you'll be able to discuss this on your YouTube channel sometime. I also wonder how it all works if the souls of babies being born today are young souls. Okay, well, we'll get to the second part of that question in a minute. So, memories and recollections. Anything you want to say about that?
So you're saying that she's saying that the babies have these memories and recollections when they're back home, you're saying basically?
I think so. I think that their children, what I'm gathering here are these are recollections that children are bringing to their parents that they had pre-birth.
Hmm.
I think that's what I get out of that.
Okay.
But you
Yeah,
know,
I mean,
and well,
no,
and
go ahead.
when they're that young, the veil hasn't dropped all the way,
Mhm.
so, or the curtain or whatever you want to call it. So they still have this recollection of, in some ways they have more recollections of where they were before than
Right.
than where they are now because they're young, right?
Hmm.
Don't have a lot of experiences. So I think that's what I'm getting. Do you want me to read it again?
Yeah, read it one more time for me if you don't mind.
Okay. Because she's talking about, she says, I'd like to help mamas who are raising children now. I'm reading Wayne Dyer's book called Memories of Heaven. It's children's recollections of the time before they came to Earth and other fascinating accounts from parents.
Hmm.
I hope you'll be able to discuss this on your channel sometime. Uh,
Okay.
yeah. And then
Did you?
she has
Okay.
other soul. Okay. So let me stop with that. And then there's
Okay.
an add on to that.
Yeah. So, I think we know, so many of us know that children, just like Julie was saying, they're just, they're fresh from home, you know? So they've got lots of impressions, lots of memories. There hasn't been the conditioning yet to store some of that away or think, oh, you shouldn't do that or shouldn't be thinking that. So they do come with a lot of memory. I mean, there's so many stories of, even just me doing sessions. I've had some clients recount situations like that with their young child or a grandchild or something that's talking about a loved one that's in spirit that they really wouldn't know anything, they wouldn't have the information about it. And it's so very natural to them. They're like, doesn't everybody know that? It's almost kind of right. It's kind of like, this is so normal to talk about these things. So certainly, yes. I mean, that's what's lovely, and it's kind of what we started to touch on, or we did talk about to your previous questions, Glenda, about that, about fostering,
Right.
these things that children are saying because their memories are very, very clear. That's all I'm going to say to that part right now because it'll be interesting with the question, but whatever you want to add right now, Julie.
I think so I read, I can't remember the name of the book that I read. um I read a few books on this topic, and I have my own recollection of when I was very young about, and this wasn't a pleasant recollection, it was a recurring nightmare about drowning,
Mm,
which I think I may have said on
mm-hmm,
the channel before, but
mm-hmm.
um and it of drowning in a house, and I was like, this, I have no, why is this happening, right? Until, and this is so many years later that I got this observation that it made sense to me. It was when Hurricane Katrina happened, and I saw people sitting on their roofs waiting to be rescued. And I went, oh my God, that's what happened to me. That's how I died.
Mm,
The house filled up
interesting.
with water from a hurricane or flood or whatever it was. Oh, mm.
Wow.
So it,
Wow.
yeah,
Yeah.
big. It's big. And I mean, I came into this world being fearful of water, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And so, and then had another near death experience here of almost drowning, all those lovely things
Yikes.
happen to us,
Oh,
right?
wow.
So, so I think what happens is, yes, just to add on to what you were saying or to concur with that, we, I think if we're willing to tap into that now, I mean, for me, it's not like I told people about this and wanted to figure it out. I mean, I don't think I remember telling anybody about it because it creeped me out so bad that I kind of just wanted to forget about it. So,
Yeah.
some people are children are gonna remember, I don't want to say good things or bad things, but things that maybe don't make sense to the parents. And
Hmm.
if the parents are open, then they're going to at least allow the children to explore that. And that's all we really want to do. And so, Glenda, I think your intention of wanting to support parents in allowing that is so hugely
Yeah.
helpful and could be so impactful in
Mhm.
so many positive ways. So, um yeah, I think there's a lot of that, and we just have to be willing. There's this thing that some people have about, if you can't see it, it isn't real, or you can't touch it,
Mm,
it isn't real. And it's like,
mhm. I
okay,
know.
I'm not gonna even
So that's
walk
my
down
answer.
that rabbit hole, because that's a big rabbit hole. But
Yeah.
yeah, so yes, I love that. That sounds great. Sounds like an interesting book to read, and your willingness to support this is just magnificent. So please continue to do that.
Hmm.
The rest of what she said was, I also wonder how it all works if the souls of babies being born today are young souls rather than old souls. And my theory about this is very different than others. Um, and how that might change the way we guide and help them. I've only,
Mm.
oh, that's it. Okay, so I'm gonna read that one more time. I wonder how it all works if the souls of babies being born today are young souls rather than old souls, and how that might change the way we guide and help them.
Okay. Well, what I get to first is there's of what we label as like old souls and young souls. I understand that question because we've all run across a child who's just very precocious, and this child is like an old soul. I mean, meaning old soul meaning maybe has been around the block a few times on its spiritual development and brings a lot of that information with them. But to the question that you're saying, what I get is it's a mix. It will continue to be a mix. If we believe an old soul and a new soul or a young soul, then I would say to that, under that understanding, that it's going to, yeah, I always get it's a mix. So I don't feel like necessarily that I'm getting right now is that the children coming in today are more younger souls or newer souls. It will always, under that understanding, it will always need to be a mix. There will always be a mix of that, and that's pretty much what I'm getting on that. So again, those children that come in with that, we'll see. They're saying those precocious, let's say, children, they have their own gifts that they're going to share in the world based on just really the knowledge they have. Um, they're needed for some of the younger, we'll call newer souls, maybe coming in that, again, are they really younger? It's a very confusing, because even as we say this, the energy is combining together. It's almost like we're not so sure about that. I love the idea of like the old soul more than even the young soul, more the old soul. I think is it seems to be a fit for some of those, like we said, children that come in that seem to just know so many things, but again, that just may be their strength to bring that knowledge, because we've all had knowledge, um, over the many lifetimes. So there you go. That's what they're saying. So
And,
that's what we get on that.
that is such a perfect segue, because it really is about our human lifetimes. So I've come to realize that while my perspective on souls and lifetimes are, it's a little bit different than what the generally accepted definition or perspective is. I used to think that whole thing too. Oh, well, they must be an old soul. Oh, they, they've been around the block. They've got all this wisdom and, this depth and this insight, and that all may be true. And my has been given to me many times is sort of a, not to split a hair. Almost split hairs. We see, and we meaning the guides, the councils, the teachers, we see the soul as the caretaker of human lives. Okay. It's not that it's old or new, big or small. It is, oh, they just showed me, and I don't know that amorphous is the right, I don't think that's the right word I'm looking for, but like something that just grows and contracts to accommodate the lifetime that each human is in as it relates to their soul and their soul group, we'll call it. And so we don't want to use the term old soul, new soul so much as people having more human lifetimes versus fewer human lifetimes. And it's neither good nor bad. It just is. And we all have lessons to learn. That's why we keep coming back as humans. That's the whole point of this ridiculous thing called being human, right? Ridiculous and amazing and joyful and astounding and just remarkable, right? So, is there any more that you want to say about that? So we like that you asked that question, and that we kind of just like that you want to, rather than address or treat people as new or old souls, as a wonderment of who they are. Who does this person offer in this lifetime? Or my cat is driving me crazy. Hold on a second here.
I've got something to add to that when you're done there. That's popping into Julie. Yeah,
So
but go ahead, please. Go
just
ahead.
adopting a sense of wonderment, and allowing, just as we know you do, or you wouldn't have asked these questions or wouldn't be asking these questions. You're very open to all of that. So we want that for everybody, to just be open. And anyway, carry on. Now I'm distracted, so go ahead.
Wait, did you see something out the window?
Oh, the cat is driving me nuts. So
Oh,
does she
understand.
often? So
I understand. No, just something in addition that that was popping in for me is showing me that sometimes something I'd never even I hadn't thought about it this way. So let's say, because we've all met, let's say that little 3-year-old child that just, what we consider old soul, right? Because they're just like, whoa, they're so mature for their age kind of thing, right? They just have this knowledge and everything. So what they showed me though is what then they gave me a version of what to, again, if we use those terms, what a young soul might look like. And what they were showing me is this young soul is actually a feeler, very, very clairsentient, however you like to say that word. And they are more in that the feeling kind of thing. So now they're showing me some of those other children are more the intellectual sort of bringing. And then these other children, let's say the children, are the more sensor feeler types. Then they just intertwined them, like I was saying earlier. They put it really together. So it's not so much, we almost make it like, or maybe it's a child that's just, fumbling over itself all the time. And things seem to be more difficult for this child. We would almost think then they are not an old soul, that they must be a newer soul learning, but yet they said they're experiencing a lot of things through the sensing and the feeling and the actual physical form. So I think that's interesting.
It so much so that it led to something else that they were giving me, which is, it's like autistic children. How do we determine, are they old souls, new souls, and who does it matter? Who, what does it matter? But yet they are are very obviously very different and interact very different. That they're showing me the kinesthetic and the clairsentient, the knowingness also. So yeah, it's interesting. I think we could,
Mhm.
I'm not even sure where that's going, but it's just another, not so much that it has anything to do with old soul, new soul, big soul, small soul, whatever soul. It's again another experience for a human to have.
Yeah.
And whatever they agreed upon with their council, which is going to lead us into the next question, pre incarnating into a human body, for the experience that they decide they want to have. Sometimes we just don't know how we often don't know how it's going to happen, right? In other words, a lesson of empathy or humility, these are not intellectual lessons. They're lessons of experiences and doing. And that can only happen when you come in and have experiences that cause those things to happen. So I don't know, I was off on a riff there. Did that make any sense?
Sure does.
Okay,
Does to me.
good. Because sometimes they're just talking away and I don't
No,
know.
I know. I know. I get that too sometimes. It's funny.
Okay. I mean, I
So
want to
do
make
we,
sense.
it does. I think it does. Yeah.
All right.
We'll find out.
I
And
know,
y'all
right?
can let us know.
Sometimes I go back and I listen. I'm like, oh God, I hope that makes sense to somebody else.
I know.
Um, I feel like I just need to wrap that up a little bit and just say, again, it all boils down to, if you want to simplify it, to the human experience. We're here to have human experiences. And through those human experiences, we evolve and grow. And to ultimately go to the other side and become a higher vibration in that realm. Ooh, that was good. Okay. All right. Anything else?
I don't think so on that.
All right. Did you say you had Rudy's question or do I need to read that?
I don't know if I have it pulled up.
No, that's okay.
Yes.
I have them printed out. So if
Do you have it? Good. Okay. I would
all
have
right.
to go back in.
So we were talking, Rudy, what were we talking about? Oh my
So
God.
we'll just say thank you again, Glenda. Keep bringing those questions in. So those were good. Thank you.
And hopefully the things that we brought out, that if they don't make sense, then you'll come back and ask us, well, I don't really quite understand that. What does that mean?
Mhm.
Good.
Right.
So we were talking about all kinds of stuff and drawn to when the topic was when we were drawn to a certain era of newborns and their innate gifts. It's like, oh, I feel a connection to Native American Indians and blah blah. If you feel like you've had a connection to something prior, and that led to another question that Rudy asked, which is there, I'm looking forward to this answer. Is there really 13 original crystal skulls of knowledge and power? And there's a little bit more to that. He says, if there are they extraterrestrial in nature and creation, or were they created by our ancient ancestors as a worshiping object? If they were created by extraterrestrial beings, will they come back together when the human race is close to wiping itself out, as legend has it? They just said, oh my God, that's so weird to me. They said, that's never going to happen. And I'm, I think I guess that's a good thing. I don't know. No, we're not going to go.
Right. How do we know?
That's not.
Okay, so are there 13 crystal skulls? Yeah, I have heard of all that. It's been a long time though since I've heard anything. Maybe I must have looked into that way long ago, many years ago. But certainly not recently. But if for me, if I go ahead and pose that question to my guides about are there 13 crystal skulls somewhere in the world, right? Basically, is kind of the idea
of knowledge and power.
Of knowledge and power.
They
So are we talking, they were talking real physical crystal formation skulls, right? Okay, that's what I remember about it. Okay, just so I have an understanding. to present to my guides. Oh, okay. Okay. What I got was, we don't see any skulls. That's what I got. That
Okay.
seems like a really okay, so guides are saying you don't because there was this talk of this. I'd almost have to read back on it now what it was about, but of these crystal skulls that existed somewhere in the world. I don't know if they're still buried or some exist or whatever it is. I'm getting no, but were there not some found, Julie, or something like that?
Okay, so here's the story here's my story, and here's some of it. Okay, years before I was into metaphysics, but I wasn't giving readings, right? I wasn't acknowledging my
Right.
my stuff. And my partner and I went to see the Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, or whatever it was called. I can't even remember the name of it. Isn't that terrible? And that's one of my favorite movies, because at the very end, it shows this whole scene where they find this council, and they're made to look like aliens, and they have been kind of invaded by the Nazis, who believe in, metaphysics and want to harness the power of the crystal skulls. And so they are actual replicas of crystal skeletons with these elongated crystal skulls, right?
Mm.
And there was actually, I think, some basis. I think somebody did find a crystal
I
skull.
thought so. I thought there was something about that too.
And they're like, yeah, this is like nothing we could have even created on this
Right.
planet.
Right.
So when we saw that whole ending, I turned to Chris and I'm like, oh my God, that just freaked me out, because I can, like, gives me goosebumps. I know that I have a counsel of something like this. It's not this, but it's like this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, that's movie making, and it needs to be imaginative and interesting. All that being said, I think there is what they're saying to me is there is a basis for that. Now, there's a lot of other life in our galaxy,
Mm-hmm.
unfathomable amounts of life we can't even calculate. And that's just our galaxy. So the thought of it being somewhere, in a galaxy far, far away
Mm-hmm.
is, of course, it could happen. It's a possibility. Does it exist right now? We will say no as well. But it did have a basis in reality, but it isn't something that you necessarily tap into as the crystal skull for that knowledge. You're tapping into the essence of what was there, just like you tap in and talk to us. It is one of many councils that have existed. Are they extraterrestrial? Or aren't we extraterrestrial?
I know, really.
Yeah, of course, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, Extraterrestrial simply means extra, somewhere outside, a planet outside of ours, right? And so there's just thousands and thousands and thousands of possibilities that, yes, that this can be. Some of them were worshipped. I mean, if you look at this, at the evidence of some of that, you'll see that. They have those ancient alien shows and stuff. And again, it's TV. It's meant to be, entertainment. But as we say, a lot of this does have some basis in reality. So we're going to come back to the last part of that, which is, if they were created by extraterrestrial beings, which they were, they're out there. Many things were created, many things yet to be discovered. Many things are happening in synchronicity, and in simultaneous fashion. Will these beings come back together when the human race is close to wiping itself out, as legend has it? So again, we started off with, no, that's not going to happen. because it's literally just not going to happen, at least not anytime in eons. Unless we're hit by a planet killer, and we don't see that happening for your planet anytime soon either. I mean, that's what wiped out the dinosaurs, was an asteroid, which was known as a planet killer. So, yeah, you're just gonna continue to cause yourselves misery. That's why you're not gonna get wiped out.
Yeah. It's too fertile ground here to learn all that our souls need to learn. So yeah,
It's way too juicy for them.
it
Yeah,
is.
sure.
It is. Yeah, it's a prime. It's a prime piece of real estate. That's what I just got bumped in. Yeah.
So true. So, that's kind of the short end of that, because we're always cognizant of time here. Is there
Yeah.
anything else that you wanted to add to that?
No, not really. They were so short and sweet in there. And for my guides, they said again, I was trying to feel it like on the earth, and I just feel like a null, like a no, like, that's just what I'm getting. I mean,
Yeah.
so yeah, that's kind of our answer anyway, my guides and I.
And we kind of, as we said, we agree with that, just because there's so much you don't see. Alaria is saying to me, there's so much I see, but that you don't, and there's no sense of me going into it because you can't understand it, relate to it. I'm like,
Exactly.
um, so I'm going to put
Yeah.
something out before we wrap up a little bit. So Tammy and I were having this conversation about we want to be engaging, and we're trying also to be cognizant of your time because everybody has stuff to do. Do you feel like this is about the right amount of time? We don't want to bore you. So I don't
Yeah.
feel like we're boring you, but then again, we like the answers, so that's why we like it when you ask the questions, because I'm just gonna speak for myself. I get to learn all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So so if you have any feedback on time, is this right about, we try to stick to right about a half an hour-ish. Sometimes we go a little bit over. Does that feel okay? We'd love your feedback on that.
Yeah. Yeah, let us know. Because I mean, whether it's you're just wanting more short to the quick answers, or you like that it's kind of we're discussing it and deciphering it a little bit. So we
Yeah,
won't be offended either way. Whatever you have to say, it helps us to deliver to you what you want to see. So
100%.
yeah.
I mean, I'm sure I could ramble on for quite some time.
Oh, me too. Sometimes it's our favorite subject, the whole stuff here. My thing keeps popping out of my ear. Sorry about that. Keep visiting with my ear.
This is
But
one of those. And I'm wearing my Star Wars earrings today, so 'cause I felt
sweet,
like I
sweet.
wanted to be a part of that today. But yes.
Yeah.
So if you will be so kind as to answer that. Now we do know that Daphne wrote us some juicy as Daphne does, wrote us some really juicy questions, and we're going to get to those in our next one. And there are several, so we might even be able to spend the whole time just with her questions, but
Mm-hmm.
might answer them briefly too. We don't know. So please
Yeah.
send. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It's so juicy for us, It's just so juicy.
Yeah.
And so
It's fun.
So we hope we gave you some answers and that it maybe elicited more questions.
Mm-hmm.
And send us those, because we'll just keep riffing off of them.
Yep.
Okay.
We appreciate them.
Anything else that, gee, I think I finally got warm.
Got warm? Oh, were you cold?
When
Oh.
when I read or channel, I
Yeah,
run
yeah.
energy, so I get warmer.
Sometimes I do too. Yeah.
I was really cold when I came to the call, so
Yeah.
let us know if we missed anything. There's something else that popped up for you. Is there anything you want to close with, Tammy? Is there happy election day? Yes, I started to ask.
Well, our guides are saying we appreciate all of your comments and questions. And they're kind of echoing what we're saying. Basically, to please do send them in. They're saying our names to Tammy and Julie and Tammy, whatever they're saying. Make sure that you are very precise as to what your question is. That's what they just said. Because the more precise you are, the more it's easier for them, in a sense, to really get back to you in that way. So do think about that. That might be something to think about if you're going to pose a question. You know, how can I make this like really right to the point? You know,
Thank you
because
for saying that, because I tell all my clients that too. The more specific
exactly,
question you ask in a reading, the more specific an answer you'll get back. If you ask, am I
exactly.
going to get a new job? It's yes or no. I mean, you
Right, right.
know.
I know. That's funny because I was thinking as they were saying, I thought, yeah, that's exactly what, I usually tell the same thing to my clients, So it makes sense, So
Totally.
if you can, yeah, whatever that questions that you have, how can you make it just like that? And that we can
So
pounce on that for you and delve into it.
excellent advice. Right before you went off on that, I said I was going to say, I will see you next time, and hopefully we'll have and I didn't even finish my question to them because they knew what I was going to say. I was going to say, hopefully we'll still have a democracy, and they said, you will have a democracy. So God, I hope so.
I
You
love
know
it.
how funny it is that I trust them, and yet it's not that I don't trust. It's like all the signs are just so, in certain areas that I'm like, God, I hope you're right. So
Yeah, right.
hey,
Exactly. Well,
they're,
kind of like going in faith.
exactly. And we've made it this far. They said you're going to keep going. You're going to keep going. There's ebbs and flows, and there are resets. We've been talking about a reset for a while, and I kind of didn't really understand what that meant because they weren't really elaborating on what that was. And they said because we're not exactly sure what kind of what that reset looks like. When we
Mhm.
say a reset, we're talking about kind of uh, culturally, phys- not physically, but physiologically to the planet. Um, and it's still in process. And that's why we can't necessarily give you a concrete answer to what we mean when we say a reset. Which again is vague. And I mean, even I want to know, and they dropped that tidbit to me many times. They've said, oh yeah, well, there's a reset coming. And I'm like, well, what does that mean?
Yeah, I know. They
And
give
so
teasers sometimes. I've had that too, little teasers, and then because they come in so clear when they do that, and then when you're asking about it, again, you always hear that sometimes people it might be challenging to read for yourself, kind of thing. I can do it, and I'm sure you can, Julie, but
uh,
there is that of course we're wanting to hear certain things, or then we're not maybe as clear. So I know, so when they give us those teasers,
I
I
know.
can ask the question to it to further, but then I really got to make sure I'm clearing myself the best I can to hear back, because otherwise
It's really
I
hard.
might already have my own answer in there. Yeah,
Well,
whether
exactly. Exactly. That is the whole point. And that's why Tammy and I will often go to each other for,
Mhm.
and ask questions because we know what we want to hear. It's like, do I want to hear that, crazies are going to run the world? No, I want to hear that that's not
Right,
going
right,
to.
exactly.
I think I need to stop now. Okay. So, they're assuring me we'll have a democracy. It might look a little bit different. Now I'm like, well, what does that mean? Um, okay, I guess we'll have to wait and see. All right.
Yep,
So,
yep.
okay, I guess that's it for today, right?
Yeah, I think we're good. I think we're good. Thank you everybody again for taking time with us and joining us and being part of this. It means a great deal to us. So yeah, share us if we have something of value that you feel that we're speaking of that other people might want to hear, and keep those questions coming.
This is, what I know it's kind of funny when we ask you to share it and get people to subscribe, but like-minded people, it just builds the pool of questions, right?
Hmm.
To where
Hmm.
there are going to be things that you're like, wow, I never would have thought of that. I mean, that's
Right.
kind of how Abraham Hicks started and other channelers, right? And so we just more people that are out there to ask us questions, and the more brilliant and intricate and specific those questions are, that I personally might not think of, that the more you're gonna get from it. So that's why we ask you to do that.
Yep.
All right, Kat. All right. And
Sweetie pie.
Tammy's cat Teddy is on the mend.
Yeah.
He had some health scares, so he's doing
Yep,
better.
he sure did. He's doing better though right now. So yeah, glad to see that.
Yeah. All right.
Thank
So,
you.
ladies and gentlemen, he, them, they, we, us, there, she, them, whatever. I don't want to offend anybody. And partly, we will see you next time. Until then,
All
we're
right.
psychic moms and the
Okay.
cats.
Take care, everybody. See you next time.